Hi, it's Kelsi, and welcome to Duke's Yard Homestead. I'm looking forward to sharing with you the journey that I have had over the last 5 years of transitioning my urban property in a small rural community to a backyard homestead with a flock of hens, raised gardening beds, bees, and everything that comes along with sustainable backyard living and being able to provide yourself on a small scale environment and what can be done in that type of environment for someone who didn't have access to lots of land and um, the ability to purchase land. I've really been able to take what I have and make that work for me. And I hope that my journey and story can help you turn your backyard into a sustainable food adventure as well. So join me as we talk about how the property started transitioning and where we're at today in 2022. I got started building the homestead in 2017 when my dad, Duke, passed away. I inherited the home and realized there was a lot of work that needed to be done. We live in a floodplain and the home had been flooded in 2016, and with his help the property had really degraded, and not just the home but the land and the caretaking of it. And so decided if I was going to start from scratch and working, I should probably do it in the most sustainable way possible. And through that, the homestead started coming to life. What you're seeing in the pictures is what the property looked like at the end of 2017, going into 2018, and the overgrowth of the backyard, and then the property behind me, which I ended up purchasing this year in 2022. So I started in the backyard of clearing and really just seeing what I had. And so for size purposes, my lot's about 100 foot by 200 foot deep. And I am in a small urban rural area. So I am in town and I am in town limits. I decided that I would use raised garden beds here on the homestead. I was able to get metal from a barn that was being taken down a couple miles away and reuse that as the bases of the garden beds. They are 4 by 8 and roughly 2 foot tall. And on the corners, instead of using 4 by 4s to save on cost, I used landscaping timbers. So I was able to get 4 supports per 1 8 foot landscaping timber. As I was clearing debris from the yard, I was keeping it stacked in piles. So then once I got the beds built, I could put that material in the bottoms to help fill them. After that, I was able to get compost from a composting event in the neighboring town, and I had a friend come over and help load all of that compost into the beds. I had started with a shovel and a wheelbarrow and could imagine how that went. So I was so grateful for my friend that came over and helped with that. And so it's things like that that makes the homestead a lot easier, is when you do have connections, or you do have friends, or you do have family who is interested in what you're doing or has tools, or even community. There's such a homesteading community out there that folks will lend a hand here and there, and you'll see that as we go along in this journey together. With being in town, there has been limitations, and that really started with learning that my town did not allow for livestock, specifically hens, inside town limits. And so once my homesteading journey had reached a certain level when I was ready to move beyond just having plants, I learned a whole lot about what has to occur to challenge ordinance in a municipality, particularly in North Carolina, and what can be done to advocate for yourself to be able to have a backyard hen flock for your homestead. After going through the process of challenging the town ordinance to allow for hens, we successfully challenged that. If you need help, please reach out. I'd be glad to help you in your municipality. But, I was able to order the chicks, and so I ordered from McMurray Hatchery, and the chicks arrived in the mail, and it was a very good day. I was so excited, and through that, I learned quite a few things, and I was expecting maybe some not doing well in shipping, But it ended up with Helene, which I'll share her story at a later time. But she had splay leg and like a crooked foot, and it was it was a lot learning with my first batch of chickens what to do in that type of situation, and was really brought into the idea of homesteading in a completely different way than I had been before, with having to make decisions. And so once the chicks were here and they were grown out, it was time to move them out to their coop. And one of the best advices that someone gave me when I was getting ready to get the chickens was build your coop first. And that's exactly what I did. So when the babies were ready to go out at 5 weeks, I could have moved them out sooner than that. Their coop was ready. Their run was ready. Everything was ready. It was a smooth transition, and I wasn't panicking of, I've got to get the coop finished. After the coops were built and the chicks were out, it was time for that year, and this was 2020, to get the garden in and just really start taking care of the garden, and seeing what could be produced in the raised beds. And the first year, it was beautiful, but it wasn't really what I was hoping for it to be in terms of abundance. And so I started learning more about soil and what kind of nutrients needed to be in the soil and how to really amend that over the next couple of months and leading into the 2021 season. And really just, it was watching the chicks grow and getting the first egg and feeding them pumpkin, and realizing that when they sunbathe, sometimes they look like they're asleep slash dead and having heart attacks. I would had my first snake in the coop. And there's so many things that just happened over, between 2021 and 2022 that got me in the full swing of urban homesteading, and got ideas rolling of what could be done next and where would the homestead go, and should I add bees or should I expand the garden. And of course there was chicks thrown in because I love chicks, and who doesn't. So there was so much that was happening that continued to develop from those first initial phases of, hey, I want to transition my homestead or my home into a homestead, and I'm getting chickens and I have a garden. What's next? In the summer of 2022, I decided it was time to get bees back on the homestead. And previously, I had participated in a hive rental program and wasn't really involved with the bees, just received the benefits of them. And adding the bees to the homestead was so exciting, and I cannot wait to see how this first winter goes, and then really next spring to see what type of honey they will pull, and just the whole process of raising healthy hives here on the homestead. I'm also in the process of building a greenhouse. For the last few years, I've used the small 6x6 and 6x8 plastic greenhouses that you can get off Amazon. And I've ordered a larger one this year in preparation for my permanent greenhouse building that will be on the back property. I have a lot of projects that I want to get done over the winter. I decided this year that I wasn't going to do a fall garden because I got so behind on everything that needed to be done around the homestead. So this winter, I am planning for the 2023 season. I'm finishing up some projects like the greenhouse and building a loft in my barn, and also probably adding a couple more things into the mix as well in preparation for the 2023 season. So I hope you'll stick around and join us. Make sure you like and follow us. Check us out on Instagram and on Facebook at Duke's Yard Homestead. And we look forward to seeing you again soon. Thanks for joining us.